here is my little stuffy with all of the stitching done around the body except for the head. So I got about to here, I guess it was here, you can see it, before I ran out of thread, and then I actually made it to about here before I got a humongous knot in my thread, and I had to cut it off and start fresh with a new thread. And then I made it to here, the other shoulder, and I barely had any thread left, so I went ahead and I tied it off and cut it off. If you have a lot of thread left when you get up to this point, you can leave it attached, but it is a little bit easier if you go ahead and cut it off and start a new thread. But don't do that if you have a whole ton of thread left. So the head of my monster is still open, but everything else, when I stick my hand in, everything else should be nice and tight. If I stick my finger in the arm, it shouldn't be opening. I shouldn't see any of my finger. When I'm sticking it down in the leg, I shouldn't see any of it. If I'm seeing any of it, then my stitching might not be tight enough. But it's an easy fix. You just get a new thread and make some tighter stitches in there. So you can see how close together my stitching is. That's a good thing. So then I have a whole way too much of stuffing. So what I'm going to do is take my stuffing and put some of it inside here. We're not going to be able to fit a whole ton of it. These aren't going to be humongous, but we do want to make it a little bit more stuffy than it is. So I'm going to take some off. Okay, so start by just shoving it into the head, and be careful because you can definitely tear your stitches when you're doing this. So I'm going to take some and stuff it into the head, stuff it down. Don't cram it, don't start ripping at it. So stuff, 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 stuff. And then one of the tools that you can actually use for this is a color pencil where the back is flat, because I'm actually going to use the flat end to get this stuffing down into the legs and maybe a little bit into the arms. If you use the part that has the point, then you're going to stab it through your monster. So we want to use the part with no point to get this stuffing down into the legs a little bit. But again, they're not going to be humongous, but we want to get them a little bit fluffier than what they are right now. You can try to use your finger, but you can see I'm not getting it very far with my finger. So I'm going to there we go, take that color pencil, get some of that stuffing in there. There we go. So again, be careful because you might tear a hole in this. We don't want to tear a hole in it. So you can see now that this leg has been stuffed. The foot is still very flat, but you can see the leg is stuffed and this leg is still very flat. Don't keep cramming this because I'm actually not probably going to get any in the foot. You can try a little bit, but I'm probably not going to get any in there. So let's see if I can just get more stuffing in the other leg. So take your finger and do what you can, but then I need to go to the pencil and get just a little bit of stuffing there in that leg. There we go. A little fluffier. Ooh, I almost poked through the whole thing. So again, a very flat foot, but the leg is stuffed. So I think I'm okay with that. So all that stuffing actually took up just about the lower half. So I'm going to put a little more stuffing in, take this little piece, put it in. I want to get a little bit in the arms. Again, not probably all the way to the fingertips, but I'm going to put a little bit in the arms. I think I actually popped a stitch over here when I was stuffing my monster. So just be careful because that is now going to be a little bit fragile. I'll have to fix that when I do my head stitching. I thought I heard it, but I wasn't sure. Put a little in that arm too. See if you can get just the fingertips to be flat. There we go. Okay. So that's about as much stuffing as you're going to want in your monster. Again, they're not huge. Their feet are flat, but I think that they're going to be cute enough as they are. They're a very pudgy little monster. There we go. So we do want to put stuffing in the head, but we're actually going to wait until most of the head is sewn up before we try to do that. So let's get sewing on our head. I'm going to see one more time if I can get just a little bit more stuffing into that foot. I think they're just going to be flat. All right, so I'm going to start same way we have. I'm actually going to start down here on the arm because I actually did pop those stitches open. You can see how I used to have stitching on there, and now it's kind of torn. So I'm actually going to start down here on the arm and try to repair some of those stitches. So same thing, I put it through, loop it through, there we go. Tuck that knot to the inside. At this point we want to make sure everything's tucked to the inside. I'm going to do a couple repair stitches so that I can be sure that this is going to stay together. It's a little harder to sew now that it's stuffed because you got to pinch those two halves together. Oh, I hooked my scissors. Okay, so now I'm going to start going up and around the head. Same way we were doing, keep those stitches nice and close together. And I'll come back once I have just about a big enough hole to get a little bit of stuffing and maybe my finger into.